Good day, everybody. I hope you're having a really good one. And as you can see, the topic is going to be more about our menstrual cycles and how to be an attuned eater, regardless of what everybody else thinks about how much you're eating, what you need to do to take care of yourself. So I'm your host, Tracy Brown, somatic nutrition dietitian and attuned eating specialist. And we're going to do a little bit more detail today around cycle information. And I do hope you have questions. I know this is like a little sensitive topic, so if you're here live, you don't have to talk about that. You can always email me or private message me if you have other things you want to talk about. But definitely be gathering your thoughts if you don't have them today for Friday when we have our Q&A, and you can ask me any questions you want to about this topic. And if I don't know it, I'll come find out for you. Now, I'm not going to go into too much of the particulars if you are struggling with your cycle right now. Or any major maybe hormonal imbalances, but I do recommend a book for that if you're struggling with getting your cycle back. It is No Period Now What by Nicola Rinaldi. Very, very good. There's a little bit of number info in there, but not bad, and it's very, very informative and highly researched and really great. So I recommend that resource for y'all. But just to get started, I mentioned a little bit, just very briefly in Monday's video, around just the simple fact is that we do need more energy before our cycles. Usually, somewhere in that it's kind of like cascading down those last, several days counting out to your cycle. Again, I know those of you who are on contraceptives that either are really downplaying some of those hormonal changes that happen naturally, or you don't have any periods at all. This may not feel as relevant for you, but that doesn't mean you can't use this. I mean, I think there's, well, I know there's some relevancy because I was once that person too on birth control and having those shifts. So I think it's really important that recognizing our bodies still do some of their own thing, even though we're on maybe a medication. So all that being said, let's talk a little more specifically about what's happening. So at the first week of your cycle, so that's one, you're obviously going to notice the first couple days probably a little less energetic, just because everything is at its lowest point. Estrogen is at lowest, progesterone is at its lowest, testosterone is at its lowest, and we need some of all those to have a good mood, especially estrogen and testosterone. So you might notice that your hunger isn't quite as strong, possibly at the very, very beginning when you first start your cycle. You might find that you have a need for, for some of you who are struggling keeping your iron status up, you might notice it the most at that point where you feel like you really need to get in just higher iron foods. So make sure you're doing that. That would be really helpful. Through the second week, you're going to start notice your energy and your mood improving because estrogen's going up, testosterone's going up a little bit. So, and that's going to continue on until you get towards, ovulation. And that's when things start to change, of course, that you might have a little drop in your mood there because progesterone is starting to kind of perk up as well. Now, progesterone is the one that's going to increase your need for fuel. It's just a anabolic hormone, which is a good thing. And it helps us get more fuel on board in preparation for if you get pregnant. And that's just the natural way of things. We're going to need more fuel. There is increase in your resting rate of using energy. So you don't have to do anything for this to happen. That just naturally happens. There's a little bit of a, the engine revs up a little bit basically after ovulation. But that's when you'll start to notice as well that, estrogen goes down at that point, testosterone is going down at that point a bit as well. And so you might have increase in energy need and hunger, but you might also have a downshift in your mood. And that's what's really important to think about, like how you manage, and if you've got extra stressors in your life right now, that you might want to put more care and more rest and self-care into your life. If you are regularly active, this is a place where it's like, you're probably not going to feel your best trying to do hard workouts there. That's not maybe the time for your body to have that. And as you notice, as I'm talking, I'm not giving numbers. I have the research in my head. I can tell you what percentage your metabolic rate goes up and what's happening in your, but I don't think it's relevant, because if we are listening to our bodies, we get that information without knowing the numbers. Now, if you're a numbers person and that actually helps you, that's something for you to go dig into the research about. I think I will definitely be doing some a longer blog post about this, put in where that research comes from, but that'll be later on. But I think it's really important just to recognize that all these things are happening, and you don't need me to tell you this in terms of like what's happening in your body and can you trust it. That's the issue. If you're someone who's a lot more sensitive to these hormone changes, you're probably noticing that when estrogen is going down, sometimes also serotonin goes down, and that's where, if some of you are extra sensitive to that dropping, or you're already struggling with that balance anyway, it's going to be more pronounced here, which is why you're going to be having more symptoms. So it's really important that you're working with your primary care around this, because I know a lot of people who do just a little bit of a antidepressant only at this time of the month, just because they need that help. But there's some things food-wise you can do. Make sure your vitamin D status is good, and make sure your foods that are really high in tryptophan that can be helpful are going to be basically all the animal products, eggs, some in nuts for sure. So be thinking about those foods as well. Make sure your calcium intake is good, vitamin D, magnesium, B6. Again, all those can be found in foods. I'll be making a little infographic about that and put it on the website as well, about what are some high sources of those foods as well. I think that's really important. Like, well, how can I help myself with food versus taking bucket loads of supplements unless you really need to? That would be helpful. So as the month wanes down here until your cycle starts again, you're going to notice that you're going to have those symptoms. Those foods will help you with cramps, headaches, all those things. So make sure your magnesium is good, your B6 is good. You're getting in just more overall energy, because if you're not, that's where those struggles maybe with deprivation-driven eating can kick in and feel like the eating's a little out of control, when really it's not. It's just trying to make sure you're healing the energy deficit and you're taking in more energy-dense foods, which those foods happen to be in the foods that you might be restricting, that your body also really needs. Like, again, not only just carbohydrates, but just a good mix of protein and fat as well. So be thinking about that. If you're vegetarian or vegan, it's going to be really important that you are make sure you're getting the B12s in, the B6, that you're the intake you're getting in is high in those sources, the best you can from animal products, but you might need to take supplements at this point, omega-3 as well. So make sure if you're not doing fish oil that you're doing an algae oil of some kind. That would be helpful as well. And so finally, we're getting right to the day, and the days close to your cycle where you might not feel as great because you have all those symptoms. Just feed yourself the best you can and be gentle. Use your self-care around like your hot water bottles, your heating pads, slowing things down, because if you're still living, if you watch me long enough, you know that I'm always talking about regulation and taking things at a slower pace. That way your body can actually heal. That way you can get more attuned to your body cycle signals, not only of hunger and fullness, but your signals of like what your emotions are, your interoception, getting that better. And your body is going to ask you to be slowing down at this time. That's just how it is. You might have less focus. Well, can you honor that and take things at a slower pace? That will decrease your symptoms. That will decrease your stress hormones as well, which is likely to decrease some of the symptomology and pain you might be feeling if you happen to have cycles as well. And the more stress we have, the more that's going to disrupt this really delicate balance of your menstrual health as well. So all of these systems are together. So I know I give you a lot of information to be thinking about, but my best suggestion really is to take 3 months and start paying attention to some stuff. And I know if you're watching this and you're not in that phase of life anymore, I will be doing a video series about attuned eating and menopause and symptoms and all that kind of good stuff as well. And I think that's it for now. If y'all have any questions, if you thought this video was helpful, please, please follow it along to your friends who are in this cycle, this season of life. If you thought this was awesome, take a screenshot right now and share on your Instagram so people can find this video as well. That might be really helpful for those that aren't Facebook folks, or YouTube folks. Anyway, I think that's it for now. If you have any questions about this, and the last thing is, again, if you're not eating enough food, of course your cycles are going to be disrupted, and of course you're going to have symptoms that aren't quite the flowy norm here. And the first step is getting enough fuel in. So I hope you all are doing well, and we will talk soon on the next video. If you have any questions, please if you don't put them here and tag me, then save them for the next live, and I will answer them then. Thanks so much, and take care.